We got Mr. Presley Milton here. Absolute beast. He's like my consigliere with YouTube specifically, and he runs a very successful YouTube agency and also teaches creators how to start a video agency. You guys blew up with that series that you guys had, right? And so he did a 30-day series building a new video agency, and he actually got his start from my previous company between 2021 and 2023 called Cashflow Syndicate, which we had over 8,000 customers in 16 months, which was massive. So cool. I guess we'll get started. Presley, kick it off. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, guys. So thank you for being here. David, thank you for putting on this awesome event. I'm excited to kick things off. Big responsibility that comes with that. But this presentation is going to be all about how to create content so good your prospects have no choice but to buy. Now, whether you sell information, you're selling a service, all this information is applicable. So this is important to me, especially if you guys are upcoming agency owners, because this is going to make your life 10 times easier. Because when people go into sales calls, prospects already know you, they trust you. They say, I've consumed everything, I'm bought into you, let's just figure out the logistics. It takes out a major part of the sales process because there's no question about whether you're qualified to do the thing. It's just like, hey, when can we start? And I'm gonna show you exactly how to do that, whether you are a coach, whether you are an agency, regardless of whether you're B2C or B2B. This is going to make it crystal clear on what you need to do to shorten your sales cycles, get more people into your funnel, make more money. And to give you guys a little bit of context on who we are, what we've done, my business partner Cam, you may have seen him, we run a YouTube agency together. So we work with people in the info product space, creators that are looking to basically build an audience and sell more of their thing. That's who we target. We've worked with some pretty reputable names in the information space. I just threw on some pictures to show you a few of the people we've worked with. We've generated our clients millions of dollars in tracked sales through YouTube. And we've been able to rank a lot of our clients for major keywords in their niche and basically just own the entire category for YouTube, which is a very powerful thing. And not only have we done this for clients, but we've also implemented the same exact things for ourselves. This is my business partner Cam, started a channel at around 1,000 subscribers about 3 or 4 months ago. In that time frame, he's grown to over 20,000 subscribers. The first video he posted, basically a brand new channel, 1,000 subscribers, went on to get over 250,000 views. This entire series generated over 1 million views, made us hundreds of thousands of dollars with our own coaching offer. So not only have we done this for clients, but we've also been able to implement these same exact strategies for ourselves. Now, there's a lot of content information out there, but I just wanted to boil down the 4 most important points for this specific presentation, and I call it the unit framework. And there's 4 main pillars or principles that you need to understand to succeed with YouTube or even content more broadly if you want to go and sell more of your stuff online. And this can be broken down into unique mechanism, noticing micro and macro trends within your niche, identifying the biggest keyword opportunities or pain points within your niche, and then telling people the cost of inaction. Now, there's I could talk all day. You guys would probably fall asleep listening to me talk about YouTube SEO, all the different optimizations with titles, thumbnails, whatnot, scripting, how to write the perfect script. But I wanted to cover the 4 main pillars because if you understand this will give you a 70 to 80% understanding of what you need to go and do. And you can go and figure out the 20 to 30% optimization by yourself. But in my opinion, these are the 4 most essential principles that have helped us get results for ourselves and our clients. And we can start off with unique mechanism. I'm going to go over to the whiteboard here and demonstrate a few things. So unique mechanism, this is what differentiates you from the competition. So in the same way that you have a unique mechanism for your agency, your coaching program, you have a thing that separates you from the rest of your market. The same principle applies to content. So I'm going to give you a few examples to better show you what I'm talking about. Now ignore the sloppy handwriting, but let's say that somebody owns an $80,000 a month wholesale real estate business. That in and of itself is an impressive stat. But whenever you're making content, you want to make yourself as much of an outlier as possible. Within the niche of the market of wholesale real estate, there's a lot of people that own wholesale real estate business. There's a lot of people trying to teach it. So how do you differentiate yourself from everyone else in the market and out-sophisticate your market in a crowded space? Well, you add outlier statistics. So it's one thing to have an $80,000 a month wholesale real estate business, but what if you close your first deal at 19? Simply adding at 19 to everything you say gives you an advantage. Because now not only do you have an $80,000 a month wholesale real estate business, but you've been able to accomplish this all by 19 years old. So what this does is now you're positioned better than the rest of the market. This is the first differentiating factor, is the fact that you own a business that does $80,000 a month, which in the wholesale real estate business, there's only probably like half a percentage of people that ever go on to reach those numbers. Now you add in the fact that you're 19 years old. Now it lessens the pool even more. There's already a small percentage of people that have built or reached this point with their wholesale business. Very few people have gotten to $80,000 a month. But there's an even smaller percentage of people that have done that at 19 years old. So now you're one of one, as Gunnar would say. Like, there's very few people that are hitting those kind of numbers at a young age. So in the contrast of high number, low age, or high number, low time frame, you're increasing the gap between you and the rest of the market and out-sophisticating people in a crowded or sophisticated market. Now we can take it even a step further and say that you did this without X, Y, or Z. So now not only have we differentiated the educator and the person teaching and showing how this person is extremely successful at a young age, but now we are also differentiating on the mechanism they use to do that. So you would go into saying, for a hook or an intro or even a title, now not only are you this guy that's extremely successful at 19 years old that's scaled to $80,000 a month, but you've done it without using the traditional methods that everyone else is teaching on YouTube, like X, Y, and Z. In fact, I've developed my own unique framework that no one else is talking about right now. Now you're actually one of one. And we could even take this a step further by now inserting the social proof that I have other teenagers in my coaching program that have been able to do this, and they had no prior wholesale experience, no real estate experience, no sales experience, and they've also been able to do it. So now you're differentiating on like 4 different factors. You're differentiating on the fact that you've scaled to a certain number that's already makes you an anomaly within your industry. You're differentiating on the fact that you've been able to do it at a very young age. You've been able to do it without X, Y, and Z conventional methods. And you also differentiate on the fact that your program actually gets results and no one else does. And the people in your program are also a young age. That also sets them apart. So with every way you can differentiate yourself, what you do is you out-sophisticate the rest of the market, and it gives your content an edge. Because when everyone else is making how-to guides in your niche, when everyone's doing like POV or day-in-the-life videos in your niche, the way you differentiate is identifying these unique advantages that you have that no one else can copy and paste, right? Because YouTube very much is a game of arbitrage. People are always copying the next winning title format, the next winning thumbnail format, but what they cannot copy is your credibility, your methods, all this stuff, because like no one else can go and tell their story of how they scaled a business to $80,000 a month at 19 years old, because that would simply not be true. So with every differentiating factor that's unique to you, you make your stuff impossible to copy. I'm gonna give you another illustration here in a second. Dave, you have an eraser? Paper towel?
Somewhere, yeah. This also applies to any type of agency service whatsoever, or any type of service at all. So the same way that you think of content is the same way that you can think about premise with anything it is that you're selling. I don't care if you're selling hamster wheels or ice to the Eskimos or whatever. As long as you use these differentiating factors and you present that to the people that you're talking to, you end up putting yourself in a position where you end up out-sophisticating the market by 1 order of magnitude in terms of complexity. So depending on what it is, regardless if you're a beginner or regardless if you're doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month and you're starting a new offer, you're always going to have market competition. And so the same way that you can think about content is the same way you can think about your service, whatever it is that you're selling, and then all you do is put that into your sales methodology, your sales process, which explains why people should do business with you, why people should buy. It doesn't matter what it is.
Great analogy, David. I'm going to give you another example of this as well in the way that we've been able to do this with our own coaching offer too. So the title of my business partner Cam, his first video on his channel, his first real video was, I started a content agency to prove it's not luck. Now the entire premise of that, and I might have to use the whiteboard in a second, is within the intro, he starts with saying, I already run an agency at over $100,000 a month, but to show you guys that it's possible, I'm restarting from zero. Now what this does is you almost hit on the aspirational side of things while also maintaining the relatability. And this is really important with a lot of these challenge format videos, or anytime you're building in public or going that route of trying to be relatable with people, is that if you can maintain the authority frame while being relatable, that gives you a very unique perspective. Because now you're not just some bozo that's blind leading the blind. Now you're, I did this already, but I'm just doing this as a challenge to myself to see if I can do it again and show you guys and simulate what it would be like if I wasn't in this position. And so by leading with the fact that he's already running a very successful agency, this differentiates himself. Because he's not some bozo that's just like, I'm documenting my journey as an entrepreneur like everyone else is doing, right? Everyone's trying to make Daniel Dallin videos, but it's like they don't even have a life worth documenting or a business worth documenting or any valuable insights. But Cam is coming from the perspective of, I'm already doing this. I'm just making this for fun. And that gives him a level of credibility where the advice and everything that follows, he set himself up very well with the context, because going in, people know that the methods he's using are tried and true. And so that gives him a big advantage over everyone else trying to document or build in public, because he's leading with the fact that we've scaled an agency to over $100,000 a month, which in the content agency, video agency niche is very unheard of because most people aren't able to build systems to that level. And so with the content itself, it's very interesting because there's people that question the validity of the fact that we run an agency at the start, but then when they watch the series, they're like, wow, I actually just went and tried these things, they work. It's like, well, no shit, they worked for us. We didn't make this up, it's not theory. You know what I mean? So it's funny watching people go down the 30-day series and then realizing, wow, this actually works. And my central point is that the method of differentiation here is not only in the fact that in documenting in public, we're leading with the authority and we're starting with the fact that we run another agency and we're not just building in public and flogging bullshit, but another part of it is positioning ourselves different than the rest of the video business coaches or videographer coaches or whatever the case may be. A lot of people in this niche, what they were doing where they were doing these boring how-to videos of like how to get clients or like how to price your services. But the problem is that gets old really quick and it's the same outdated information, the presentation isn't interesting. So we took the need, the interest in how to get video clients, how to price your work, and rather than telling people, we just showed people. So it's the same exact topic or pain point, but we just presented the information in a different way by going out and showing people, hey, here's me walking into a business and closing them and having a sales conversation and cold approaching them. And I documented the whole thing. It's not them telling or reading off a script or presenting. I'm gonna go and show it, and simply making that difference in the packaging and the presentation of the same topics and concepts that everyone else was doing, it was a home run. Because people had done it in the dropshipping niche, people had done it in the crypto niche, people had done it in the Amazon FBA niche. But for some reason, no one had taken this position and brought it to the video business niche. And that was our angle. We found a way to position ourselves differently, we identified a need, and we just filled the gap. So that's really the definition of unique mechanism and how you can position yourself differently than everybody else. A good example with Dev over here would be with the YouTube automation space, either coming up with some unique mechanism within the YouTube automation space, like everyone's doing this, but actually I found that this works much better. And I'm allowed to say this because I run 3 faceless channels that net me, $30,000 a month, and no one is talking about this yet. Or starting a challenge of like, hey, I tried starting a faceless channel from zero, and essentially taking that exact same principle. So it's finding these little advantages or gaps or unfilled needs in your market and attacking it with your credibility. This ties really nicely into this next point, which is noticing micro and macro trends. So a micro trend, you guys might have seen this, you guys might have even taken this for yourself unconsciously. But what this means is you have a thumbnail format, a title format that's working really, really well right now that can give you an edge in the short term. A really good example was the raw reality format. If you guys are familiar with that whole trend on YouTube where everyone was just like yapping to the camera, that lasted for about a month. And it wasn't the concept of people going and talking without edits that was interesting to people. It was the fact that the content was positioned in a way where it's like, hey, this is, by saying raw reality in the title, that insinuated that this content is different. This is like, everything else was kind of a facade. There was a little bit of, fancy editing, packaging on that, but I'm just pulling back the curtain. This is going to be 100% authentic, 100% real. And that works really well for a lot of these SMA guys at the start because the entire perception of the space was that it was smoke and mirrors. So a micro trend in this situation would be identifying that and like finding that winning title format and milking the shit out of it for 4 weeks until eventually everyone starts doing it and it goes out of style. Micro trends can give you the short-term advantages. Another really good example was like the AI automation trend back like last year. What people were doing was it was like this bait and switch approach where they found, hey, don't do this, don't do AI automation, do my business instead. And for some reason that worked really well because there was so much search volume around AI automation. So people would like bait people and they would like keyword hack for the search term AI automation. And then it would bring people back to like their business model or like don't do AI automation, do SMA instead. Or like don't do AI automation, do no code software instead. So people would like keyword hack. Micro trends are great for finding those short term advantages, but ultimately what you really want to find is macro trends, which is again, kind of what I went back to saying is like finding that unfulfilled need in the market of no one's doing this right now and going and fulfilling on that need. With David, for example, with the SMA niche, I was talking to him earlier this year. And one of the things I pointed out to him, I was like, dude, like all these SMA guys are just teaching the same 2, 3, 4 outdated outreach strategies and methods of getting clients. But I haven't seen anyone really talk about cold calling for SMA. And all the people that are doing cold calling, they're like 15 years old and they don't know what they're doing. And it's just like blindly in the blind. So if you come in and do it from the lens of an experienced veteran and somebody who's done this before and you don't sound retarded, you're gonna do very, very well. And sure enough, Dave, how many views is that video at?
I think it got 45,000 in the first 2.5, 3 weeks. And yeah, in terms of like lead volume and the amount of engagement it got is insane. So now I think it's about like 60,000 now, but like it boosted the channel so much and I doubled my subscribers within the span of like 3 weeks.
How much money did that video make you?
Just shy of 6 figures.
Just because you identify one...
45 days. In 45 days with barely reaching out to the leads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what will happen. Your audience, your market will go feral for you when you can find that thing and double down on it. That's what we've been able to do with the content agency niche is like we found that need of like no one's really showing actionable ways to go get clients if you have zero portfolio. And we found something that no one else is doing. Everyone else was doing cold DM, cold email, all these BS strategies that people were teaching, Loom videos. And we said, hey, you have local businesses that you know are making money, go and walk in the door, say what's up with the camera. And so many people got value from that free content and actually went and signed content from that free client or signed clients from that free content that they're like, I have no choice but to join you guys because I have no idea what else you guys are holding behind that paywall, but I know it must be good just based on the amount of progress and clients I've gained from your free content. So when you find that 1, 2, 3 needs in your niche and you fulfill on it, I mean, it's like bringing water to somebody who's in the desert. They're just like, I've been looking for this for 4 years. I've been struggling with these old methods. You provided a solution. I'm gonna be a repeat customer for the rest of your goddamn life. It's really that simple. And so when you identify these macro trends or, micro trends even, you need to take advantage and capitalize as soon as possible before someone else does. And how you identify these, the best way is simply talking to your market, talking to your customers. A lot of people are really not doing the data the right way. With our coaching program, for every single person that comes in, and also whether you're an agency owner, this is the same exact application, you need to speak with them more and you need to really take into account why they bought from you or why they almost didn't buy from you. With every person that comes into our coaching program, we have like a 50, 60 question type form. How old are you? Where did you find us? But more specifically, what did you struggle with the most? What do you still need the most help with? Like what other industry coaches or course creators in the space have you resonated with? Who else's content do you like? And we're getting this mass amount of data that we're going and then using to optimize the content. So part of it is taking the data, but another part is actually going and implementing it for your content. So if you're an agency owner, I know some of you guys are either looking to start an agency or you currently run an agency, you can think about the same exact thing for B2B. If you notice that a lot of people are reluctant to work with your lead gen agency because they've been burned by other lead gen agencies, you need to be making more content about what differentiates you guys from a strategy perspective, but also a pricing perspective as well. Like, unlike everyone else, we do this, right? It sounds really simple because you guys have probably heard this in the business context, but you need to apply these same principles to your content, the way you think about creating content as well. Like, David has probably ran this by you guys a million times, and I said to him when he's making content, I'm like, bro, you know this stuff already. You just need to go apply it to the world of content on YouTube.
Yeah, Presley taught me something which was fairly interesting, was he said, the same way that you approach business is the same way that you approach content. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, the way that you look at the markets and the way that you look at how the opportunities that exist in the market of business, but how do you compete in the marketplace? Because business is just simply competing with other people and beating them. And I looked at it the same way. I was like, oh, that's what you mean. And so it's really about noticing the opportunities and really having like a holistic view, kind of like a top-down aerial view on exactly what exists in the marketplace, and then figuring out how you can carve your own path based on what is going on currently, like on the macro and micro level. So I literally just implemented that, and then which was that one video that blew up, which was like me, selling the software product. And I was like, okay, like this makes a lot of sense. And so we sat there for like 15 minutes, and he was like, yeah, like look at this, look at this, look at this. And I was like, oh, that's what you mean. And so we kind of decided on this interesting strategy, which was instead of going like everyone in your industry and everyone in the marketplace, all you're getting is information, whether it's a competitor, whether it's someone in an entirely different industry, whether it's someone who's light years ahead of you or someone who's just starting out, depending on where they're at. Every single person is going to give you information that you can use to flip on its head and create leverage and create an opportunity for yourself from literally thin air. So we took a look at all the guys who were doing SMMA and agency stuff, right, on YouTube, and it's like everything is a funnel. And you guys are very probably aware of like that everything is a fucking sales process and everything is a funnel and everything is like retention hacked to the point where someone just wants you to get opted into the funnel so that maybe you'll spend a little bit of money in the future. And so what we did was instead we led with that, and we led with the credibility of why I'm qualified to talk about this, and then instead of leaving the information till the end of the video and just yapping and fucking babbling, all we did was we came back and we said, okay, look, this is how you do it. Here it is, right away, first minute, first 45 seconds, here's why I'm qualified to talk about it. And then what I would do is like, here's the concept, here's the thing, and then the entire video I would just explain the concept, like nothing really held back. And it worked. And I think just in terms of, and like I said, like you can apply all this stuff to any service, any product that you sell. If you do that on the front end, what it does is it eliminates the objections on the back end because you're pre-framing the product, service, whatever it is that you're doing with the person on the other end, whether it's through a parasocial relationship with video content or something like that, or if it's one-to-one direct sales. So we certainly looked at that, and then that's the strategy and the style moving forward was just to look at the market, do a little bit of research. Like I don't really watch YouTube, and when I do, it's like true crime stories and stuff about like people like ripping off banks and everything. But when I do watch YouTube, I'll watch it for 15 to 30 minutes, and I'll watch like the first 45 seconds of videos, and I'll look at the titles, I'll look at the thumbnails, and I'll look at the concept, and I'll look at the funnel, and I'll click through some stuff, and I'll say, oh, so that's what this guy's doing. Let's just flip it on its head, and then do the exact opposite. And Sam Walton actually talked about this in his book, which was the first business book that I ever read, which was called Made in America. He said, when everyone is doing something, do the opposite, and what that does is it creates just a completely different approach for you in your business and everything. Now, if everyone's doing something that's working, that means there's an opportunity. But when you do the opposite of what everyone else is doing and you create your own path, you set yourself apart from everyone else.
Yeah, and there's some nuance with that too, because it doesn't mean, what David's not saying is not to reinvent the wheel on the search volume side. So for example, if people need help with SMA outreach, well, don't ignore that. Make content on how to do outreach or how to get clients for SMA, but the way in which you answer that question is different, right? So it's like you're still attacking the same topics, you're still attacking the same questions, but the way in which you answer the question and present the information is different. So it's like iterating on something there's already demand for, but the way in which you're bringing it to the market is different. That's the nuance right there.
So what would you classify it like this? Like a macro?
Macro?
Yeah.
That would be
Get the micro.
yeah. So macro would be
something that is like more evergreen. So for example, a macro trend.
The industry.
Yeah, so for example, I guess a macro trend in my eyes would be the vlog trend. I guess that's like a macro trend. Not so much the way people are titling vlogs, but more so the trend of like people documenting and showing rather than doing.
Yeah.
So like a trend, for example, what I've noticed, like e-com is a great example. So a macro trend in e-com is more so than ever, people are making videos talking about their stores or like documenting the process of them building a store, because over the last 4 to 5 years, there's been so much distrust in that space because they're like, oh, they're faking screenshots, they're faking revenue. Like they're talking about all these e-com strategies, but no one's actually doing. So the macro trend in e-com for the last 2 to 3 years, it started with Bia Heza, basically talking about like I tried buying a dead dropshipping store, I tried starting a dropshipping store, or Sebastian Giorgio and Esqueda, them putting on a series like I tried dropshipping to prove it's not luck. That has been the dominant macro trend of that space of people actually showing their stores and like either building it from the ground up or recapping what they've done over the last 30 days rather than like, oh, here's how you build a store. It's like, let me show you how I'm doing it. Right, so in my opinion, that would be like a macro trend within a niche.
It's like there's a distrust in the industry, so someone
Correct.
Someone needs to be the white knight.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Another-
the us versus them strategy. So in marketing specifically, it's us versus them, or you can use essentially like Debbie just said, white knight, but like it's kind of like the Messiah angle. If you guys have read, the Bible, right? So the Bible is the best-selling book of all time. The Messiah angle is there's someone coming to save the world. So there's someone coming to save the industry. And actually, I'm going to get into this a little bit later about how I used that same framework, that same strategy to do an actual launch, which was a very, very, very successful launch. So it's really about like just like I said, taking everything and then flipping it on its head, and then you positioning yourself as the person coming to save whatever.
Yeah.
Save the industry. And you can do this with services too. Everyone else in the industry is this. Here's why you should work with us, and here's why we're better. And you just fucking tell them. It's great.
Another example of this too is it's like almost the opposite. So when everyone was like running kind of like the Tate or Iman method of there's no time left, the matrix is coming to get you, right? And that worked for a period of time, but then the market almost inversed that, or the optimal strategy was to inverse that strategy and just being like, guys, like, I can't really do anything about that. No one's coming to get you, but I'm just going to give you information. And like inversing that and almost going like the monotone, I don't really care, this isn't that important, but I'm going to give it to you anyways method worked really well. And somebody who did this really well was like William Brown and Charlie Morgan. They did the complete opposite of that when that trend started to die of like Matrix, everyone's coming to get you, you need to make money now or you're going to be a slave. Charlie Morgan and William Brown actually inversed that, and they went with like the super basic, like I made a lot of money, LOL positioning. I'm just going to give it to you all away in this boring screen share format. I'm not going to try to make this movie about how the world's collapsing. By inversing that trend at the right time and knowing when to pivot, they were able to succeed really well. So that's another example of macro trend, is like the theme or the way people are positioning the content. In that case, it was very like fear-mongering heavy, and then people got tired of that, and then the meta was to inverse that positioning and say, guys, this is like the boring way to make a lot of money. Is that a good answer?
Yeah, that was great.
Awesome, sweet. And this is huge. So identifying keyword opportunities. So this is kind of a segue from the last 2 points. It's related, but it's going to blow your mind a little bit because of how simple it is. When you're trying to take over a niche, so with Devin, for example, YouTube automation, there's going to be a set of keywords or commonly asked questions in the niche. Give me a few right now. Like, what are some common questions that people would ask in the YouTube automation niche? Like long tail keywords.
Costs higher production. Make videos.
Where's the marker? So right there, that's a YouTube video.
So question on that, when you're doing keywords, do you focus more on top of funnel questions when you're first starting before you go into like deeper questions?
That's a really good question. So this is where a lot of people fuck up, is people will only focus on the top of funnel keyword opportunities, like how to start YouTube automation. That's a great one. If you have a YouTube channel and you're trying to grow your coaching program, that's a video you gotta make. But what people neglect is that a lot of these longer tail keywords, even though they don't have a ton of search volume, the competition on these keywords is so low because no one is targeting them. For example, we have a wholesale real estate client, and we made a video on how to do wholesale real estate contracts because we identified no one has made a video on this. There's like 2 or 3 creators that make a video on this, and they're kind of garbage. They're either unhelpful, huh?
I'm one of the shitty ones of those videos.
Right, exactly.
I have one that's like wholesale contracts.
So exactly. So when you identify points of arbitrage like this, you got to take advantage. But it's like, okay, how do I come up with these keywords? Well, first you have to figure out what questions people are asking in my niche, like Devin's providing me right here. Another one he mentioned was like how to hire an editor, production team. What's another one?
Do I need to monetize YouTube channel? Or like, how do I get monetized?
How to get monetized YouTube automation.
How much YouTube automation pays for like, doing
That's a really good one, yeah.
There's a little volume behind intent.
Right, exactly. So within some niches, especially if you're in the B2B space and the agency space, if you run like a lead gen agency doing cold email for whatever companies, software companies, if you make a video on how to set up like inboxes or, you know, how to do something with Klaviyo or how to do something with Instantly, may not have a ton of search volume. It's not going to really appeal to somebody who's just an 18-year-old that's looking to make money online, right? The total addressable market of people looking for content on that is going to be small because there's not a lot of people doing cold email or looking to do cold email. But that keyword of like how to go set up inboxes for cold email or how much does YouTube pay for this many views or, you know, how to hire for YouTube automation or how to pick a niche for YouTube automation, the people that are searching that, they're not doing it for no reason. No one just searches how to pick a niche for YouTube automation if they're not interested in starting YouTube automation. So out of the views that you would get on a video like that, if you got 2,000 views, those are very high intent 2,000 views. And so when you're selling a high ticket product or service, you don't care about getting everyone in the funnel. Everyone wants to go viral. Everyone wants to create super top of funnel stuff, which is great when you can hit on the thing you're teaching and it's not just like top of funnel for the sake of being top of funnel. But what everyone neglects is the middle and bottom of funnel keywords, the long kill keywords that may not get a ton of monthly searches, but the people that are watching are extremely high intent. So if you have something like that, you don't want to just get views for the sake of getting views. You want content that aligns with your ideal client. So if you get 2,000 views on a video about wholesale real estate contracts or, you know, I'm trying to think of another example in a niche, like how to get ungated on Amazon FBA, the people watching that, they're actively going into their Google search. Think about the intent level of somebody that goes into Google or YouTube and searches up how to get ungated Amazon FBA. That person, based on that search, what that tells us, I can infer that that person is either an aspiring or active Amazon seller and they need help with ungating. Well, we can infer that if they need help with ungating or this specific strategy, they probably also need help with X, Y, and Z. Oh, how convenient. My coaching can also help you with those things. Or I have other videos on my channel teaching those things. The entire game is just about covering as many of these FAQs in advance to where they have no choice but to buy with you because you've literally answered in all their questions. And by the time they get on that sales call, they are so warm because they know exactly how your strategy works because you've given all the information out. Now all they're missing is the implementation. And that is the magic. This applies to both whether you're selling an info product, you answer all their questions, or an agency, the same principle applies. I have a YouTube course on my channel, has like 5,000 views on how to grow a business YouTube channel. It's just a super technical video breaking down how I write scripts, how I position the videos for clients. People literally DM me. I got a DM on Twitter yesterday. I've been doing this all wrong. Damn. And it was like a screenshot of like them halfway through the course about like writing scripts. And that's exactly what you want your people to be thinking about when they're watching your videos.
Something else in terms of intent. Now, this is a little bit different in terms of application for service-based businesses. But during like the peak of Cash Flow Syndicate, I changed one thing about how we acquired customers, and it increased my conversion rate like 6%, which is massive. And all I did was, instead of having a link in the bio of the TikTok, I wrote, type this, which was the website, type this into your browser. And psychologically, instead of clicking the link is easy. For someone to then take 3 extra action steps, it's crazy, of I'm going to go to, now I'm going to click my internet, now I'm going to type this in, and now I'm going to read the thing. Those 2 to 3 action steps of them closing the TikTok app, opening up the browser, typing in, and clicking search increased the conversion rate in the entire company 6%. It made hundreds of thousands of dollars in that change, which was insane. And so you also have to think about the psychological level of intent of the customer when they are searching for your content, right? With my content specifically, because right now it's semi-focused on agency stuff, it's semi-me talking shit and yapping, and then also it's me actually giving genuine, actual business advice. the intent of the customer who is, or the person who is watching videos about sales or cold calling are people interested in making money. So therefore, you have to, if you are in the business of creating content, you have to think about the psychological framing of the customer. And if you're able to do that effectively, then you can understand your market really, really, really well. You can understand your customer and understand people really, really, really well, which is why I've had longevity in the game and I've been successful over the course of the past 3.5, 4 years, whereas other people have, made some money, came into the space 3 to 6 months, 9 months, maybe a year, and they burned out and fell off. So it's interesting. So you have to really break it down to brass tacks and break it down to the fundamentals about what exactly it is you're doing, and then be creative and solve problems creatively for yourself so that you can go and think about all the problems and like, okay, how does this actually relate to the customer? How does it relate to my process? And then you iterate and fix things from there.
Yeah, and if I were to summarize this, not that these things are mutually exclusive. It's not like you can't have high intent without views, because that's not true. But if you were to create a hierarchy of priorities, intent should always come before optimizing for views, because it's like, guys, we're in the business of making money. We're not in the business of getting views or getting a YouTube plaque. If you can get that, great. But always the first priority on your mind is like, well, why am I creating this content? Well, it's to get customers from my high ticket service, my agency, my consulting. So if you're not prioritizing intent and making sure your content's reaching the right people, then are you trying to be a YouTuber? Like, are you trying to monetize your channels like Devin? Like, probably not. You're probably here to sell stuff on the back end. And so it's really important not to get caught in the rat race of like copying stuff or making like 3 morning routines videos, because like we're not in the business of getting views. If you can get that, great. Like I showed with Cam, we were able to hit on both. We were able to capture a very wide market while still remaining to the core of the ICP or the person we're selling to. And there are opportunities and rare moments where you're able to do that. But at its face, you should be focused on high intent, people that are actually going to be interested or could be interested in your product or service, because at the end of the day, remember, we're here to make money.
Yeah, certainly begin with the end in mind, regardless of what it is you're selling, what it is you're doing. If you're making content, obviously your goal is to sell stuff, or you're using it as a top funnel solution, doesn't matter, right? If your goal is to make money, which is why you're all here, you have to think about how this thing that you're doing makes money, whether it's views, whether it's content, but you have to do it in a non-needy, authentic, holistic way, which is the most important thing. So,
I have a question to add to that. So
Sure.
looking up for a question, like for example, how to find a niche in YouTube automation. That's the question. How do you search the keywords that people are typing on YouTube correctly? I know there's a way, but.
Yeah, so it's not the exact arrangement. So even if the arrangement is not perfect, like the arrangement of words in the title doesn't really matter, as long as the title like revolves around that keyword and it's very clear that that title or that video answers the question. So it's like, whether it's like how to do wholesale real estate contracts or like step-by-step how to fill out wholesale real estate contracts, like the video is still going to get picked up on YouTube. It's a very smart platform, a very intelligent platform. So is that answer your question, or?
Kind of, how do you search these keywords or try to figure out?
Or how do you know whether they actually have like competition,
Right.
volume? So the first thing I'll say is actually spend time on YouTube's platform and go and search that yourself on YouTube and see the videos that rank at the top. Are they actually good? Are they sophisticated? Are they updated? Or are they just the only videos to exist? And it's going to be very easy to tell whether the videos are there because they're actually good or just because they're like the one of the 3 that exists in that category. Another tool you can use is vidIQ. Now there's a lot of controversy about this. I don't take the numbers at face value, but it's a very good tool as like a second validation or a confirmation. If you go on YouTube and you see that like, wow, there's really not that much good content on this specific keyword or question in my niche, and then you go on vidIQ and that validates that it's like a 10 competition, and that's measured on a scale of 100, like low competition, then it's like, well, this is a slam dunk right here. Let me go make content on it, So it's a combination of looking on YouTube's platform and using the discernment to tell whether the content that ranks for the niche is actually good, and then also validating that with vidIQ tends to be really good too.
So you would phrase so if you get a question from a client, you're like, okay, I should make a video about this. Type out the question as they would say it.
Pretty much, yeah. Try to get as similar as possible. So for example, like how to set up cold email inboxes, right? Or, in my case, maybe it's like, how to create content that converts, or just a variation of that, right? I'm trying to think of another example. If you're in the business of, like high ticket sales, right? Maybe you're selling like a high ticket sales program, how to land high ticket sales jobs, and then try to resemble the content or position the content as closely as possible to the question they're asking.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, just search that up on YouTube, see what's trending, see what's not.
Exactly. And again, how you acquire that data and then knowing what your customers are asking is simply by talking to your customers, collecting type form data, making sure like you're actually having conversations with these people. Because the more you notice a recurring question pops up, it's likely going to pop when you actually go and make content about it because so many people have asked it.
There's a tool called Keywords Anywhere you can also use that pulls like the top 100 videos, like and the keywords you're looking for, and shows you like how much monthly search volume it gets and how many videos are being uploaded in the last 30 days.
Yeah, vidIQ is good for that too. I wouldn't get too caught in the actual like, you know, weeds of the platform, because at the end of the day, it's like a lot of it is just like intuition about like knowing and understanding how your market's functioning and what questions people are asking. vidIQ can kind of give you like some technical data or whatever other tools you're using. But the most important thing is like, okay, there's a need in my market and there's a specific question being asked. How do I then go and make a video on it and then position it differently than everyone else who has already made content on the thing? Yeah.
I think like a good mental frame would just be like out of laziness. Like make the video out of laziness. Like this, they fucking ask me this question all the time. I'm just gonna make a video so I can just.
Yeah, that's another thing, and that's exactly.
Instead of, like trying to shoot for views, just shoot for like, hey.
That's exactly.
I'm fucking tired of it.
Yeah, and it's that helps you in the sales process as well, because you're just pre-framing objections. That's the most powerful thing, because like somebody asked me about my client results, bro. Like you should have watched the YouTube video. I literally sent this to you before the sales call. You know what I mean? Like here are all our clients. Here are the results we've gotten. Here's our process for script writing. Here's how we do research. Like after this video, you'll know that we're qualified. Like at this point, let's just figure out a date to shoot and go from there. That's exactly why I make the content too, because like I hate having to answer to people and like explain and justify myself like why we're qualified. It's like, bro, I have so much content around that. I have testimonials on my channel with clients vouching for us. I have this, I have that, right? So like that's the other powerful thing, is that like it's giving you back time, because the content is your salesperson essentially, or your setter, or the person that's triaging. That's really what the content does.
Got it. So even your low volume views for YouTube videos, they can be sales assets or.
Exactly. Yeah, sales assets. I mean, we literally have our closer now for our coaching program. We just posted like a 3-4 hour recording of the presentation that we did the other week for our students on YouTube. I instructed my closer immediately after. Like this is getting texted and SMS blasted to everyone that basically books a call with you guys. Because if somebody watches this before the sales call, I know the likelihood of them buying is going to go up like 30 to 50%.
Yeah, the time investment of watching a 4-hour video is like very high.
Yeah. So anyone that
Closer's job easier too.
Yeah, exactly. They literally beg us for YouTube leads. We just started running meta ads. They're like, they beg us for YouTube leads still though, because of the intent and the watch time there. It's like they get into the sales call, they feel like they've been there, they've known you their whole life.
Yeah, but sending them to that interview after the call is booked to make sure they're watching for the call.
Yeah.
Is just high leverage.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing.
The entire point of content is to make your life easier and like take the effort and the manual labor out of it. I think it was, I don't know who it was it Naval who said like the biggest like levers are like software and content? It was something along those lines. Yeah, there's a reason, because it's like you create it once, and now it's this self-fulfilling thing that you don't even have to think about. Like this YouTube course that I posted like 2-3 months ago, it's like, this is my baby. I can send it to students that want to learn how to like grow their clients on YouTube. And then I can send it to prospects that are like, hey, what does your process look like? Who have you worked with? It's just like, watch this 2-hour video. That answers all of that. Come on the sales call. Let's find a time to go and shoot with you. It's really that simple. So that's another big part, not only the trust building, but the amount of breath it saves you on sales call, explaining these stupid questions that you know people should have answered in advance. But it's on you. It's your responsibility to go and identify those FAQs and put them in a video and put together and construct a sales asset that answers those questions.
Same thing with service-based businesses. All that stuff, you just put it in the pre-frame. You put it in the sales presentation. If you have a deck, use a deck. Make sure you send them the deck or a video before the sales call. And it's something that I tell everyone to do, regardless if they're just starting out. And then they're going to have less questions. It's the same exact sales process, regardless if it's content or it's service or it's info, whatever it is.
Yeah, so with our agency, for example, like we have client testimonials where we will specifically ask about price, because for a lot of people, like we charge a lot for our agency, right? And that's like a thing that people get like caught up about. Oh, I've never paid this much for content before. So we specifically, in the client success interviews we have with our clients, we make sure to do like a pricing focused one. Like, do you feel like this is expensive? Like, you know, what do you think about the cost of this? And then we have our clients in, so like we don't script them or instruct them to say this. They literally just feel this way. Like we have our clients like, your service is like not expensive relative to the amount of money I've made, because I checked HireUs the other week and we actually made this much this month and we made this much over the last 4 months. So expensive is relative. I wouldn't say you guys are expensive. I would just say you guys are a premium service. We had one of our clients say that verbatim, and then somebody watches that going into the sales call, it number one sets the expectation that this is not going to be cheap, and number two explains that like it's actually priced this way for a reason, because we know we're creating a disproportionate amount of value for the client, even compared to that expensive price point we're charging. Go for it.
Everyone ever is always going to complain about price. Everyone is going to complain about price. I complain about price. Everyone complains about price. Ryan loves complaining about prices. Our sermon loves complaining. Everyone's going to complain about, oh, it's too expensive, oh, I can't afford it, whatever, right? Everyone's going to have an objection, right? Even if you're buying a $250,000 car, you're going to have objections. Oh, well, there's a scratch here and this, or, oh, maybe it has a little too many miles. You're always going to negotiate, right? The same thing that is going to apply to you is also going to apply to your customers. So what's personal, I'm going to get into this later, what's personal is general. So you have to tell people why you're priced at the way you're priced. Well, guess what? You know what I said? I'll be like, yeah, it's expensive. Of course it's expensive. You don't know why it's expensive? Because it works. Because we're the best at what we do. Because I'm the best at what I do, right? And it's not out of a place of ego. It's a place of truth, right? If you're pricing at a premium level, there is a reason why it's a premium service. I used this on a sales call years ago and it worked. I said, oh, well, why are you guys priced the way you're priced? And I said, listen, do you like watches? And he said, yeah. I said, okay. Do you walk into the wall? They said, why are you priced the way you're priced? And like, why, we want to run discounts. And this was a furniture company. They were doing email marketing. They were like, oh, well, like, yeah, we want to do a discount, and this is our strategy. And the one agency that we're working with is want to run discounts and discount the product 45% or 35% to try to drive sales. And I said, that is stupid. I said, you guys have a premium product. You guys need to sell it. You guys sell at a premium price point. You don't want to devalue your brand, devalue the product, especially in the stage that you're at. And then I said, do you like watches? I said, well, do you walk into the Rolex store and expect a discount? And it was the marketing director was a female, and the manager, the owner of the company, was a guy. And I said to the girl, I said, do you like handbags? And she said, yeah. I said, well, when you walk into Chanel, do you expect a discount? She said, no. This is the same thing with you and your product and you and your service, right? So, you can still do discounts because it's about making deals make sense or figuring out just the logistics of what someone is willing to pay for your service or whatever it may be. Sometimes logistically you need to do a payment plan, you need to stretch something out, you need to give a discount or something like that just to get somebody moving forward into your ecosystem, but then you can make money on the back end. So you have to tell people why things are expensive and justify it, because like the difference between a Lamborghini and a Toyota is about $200,000 or $220,000, right? But people know why a Lamborghini is a Lamborghini and why a Toyota is a Toyota, right? So it's the same thing with your service and your product. You have to do the same exact thing throughout your sales process.
Yeah, and a lot of people just assume that the prospect knows that the service is inherently valuable and it's worth that. You have to illustrate that, right? And you have to explain. That's why client testimonials, that's why sales assets are so important, because when they can understand how your brain works and they understand your process, that separates you because you're no longer this commodity. I had a guy that paid me for YouTube consulting like a couple weeks ago, and he came to me, he's like, I was going to try to find somebody else that was less expensive and pay them, but I honestly looked on YouTube, I couldn't find anyone else whose brain worked like yours. Said that to me verbatim, and then just pay the invoice. Like, that's why content is so powerful, because it is the most visual and visceral representation of like who you are and how your brain works and how you think. And it all comes down to a matter of communication. Content and YouTube videos are just that medium of communication that you're using to sell your prospects and explain everything. And the last point I want to make here about telling the cost in action is making it so clear that if they do not work with you, not even from a place of fear-mongering, they will struggle. They will struggle dramatically. Because a lot of people will give all this value and they'll explain, okay, here's my process. The point of your content and giving away like the how-to videos is not so that people go and do it themselves. It's to illustrate how difficult it would be in the thought process and the strategy and the intention required. So much so to when they finish that video, they're like, wow, that was a lot and this was really helpful, but I don't want to do that. You're almost like hitting on people's laziness. So like when I posted that 2-hour YouTube course, I do not intend for the people watching that video to go and actually go and write scripts themselves. My point is to illustrate how much of a process and how much of a stretch it is to actually go and do all the stuff we do for our clients. So much so that they'll just say, I just want to outsource this. Like, he seems like the guy, I'll do it. I could do this myself, but I don't want to. And that is the reaction you want to elicit from your prospects after they watch your content. I could go and do this because he's given me so much, but I don't want to. I don't want to because I know it's going to be so much work. And that is the point, that is the entire purpose of sales assets. This is a webinar concept. You guys have probably been on David's webinar. You've probably been on a million of these. And the underlying principle that everyone uses in their webinar. It's like the classic, like you have 2 paths. You can go and do what I did, spend tens of thousands of dollars, try to waste all this effort on your own and maybe succeed, right? Everyone uses it. There's a reason, it's because it's a psychological principle of selling the implementation. Or you could take our proven framework or proven system and go and do it with us. Right, in our case, it's like, hey, for our agency, when we're selling our agency service of like, hey, you could do this yourself, or we can literally just fly out to you. We'll do all the ideas, we'll do all the scripting, we'll figure out how to position the content, thumbnails, titles, script. So all you have to do is literally sit in front of a camera for a few hours, act, have an energy drink, and just be amped up for a few hours a month, and you're just gonna see money spawn into thin air. Or you could go and try to script videos and do all this stuff and sit in your basement and try to figure out how to make winning YouTube content.
My favorite objection that I get when people are interested in joining mentorship or buying the program or something, or a program, whatever, is, oh, I think I need to, I want to just try it myself. I just want to try it myself. I feel like I have the information. And it's like, you could try it yourself. I spent 7-8 years trying it myself. Or you just pay a little money behind a paywall, and then you can skip all of the steps. You can literally skip to the final line. And it's actually a no-brainer. People think, a lot of the times, that especially clients and prospects, they think that they're smarter than they actually are. And we all think that, right? We all think we're a little bit better, we're a little bit smarter than we actually are. And so humility is very important when you are doing business specifically, and understanding that there are people in this world who are further ahead of you and know things that you don't know, right? And so you have to understand that even, like, Presley is 21 years old and he makes a lot of money for 21. He started when he was 18, 19?
Like 18, 19, yeah.
So he's 21 years old, he makes a lot of money. He makes more money than most 21-year-olds can make after they graduate college 3-4 years into a corporate job in a month than they do in a fucking year. And so you have to understand that, like, okay, what he's talking about here works. And you have to humble yourself. Even me, it's like, okay, well, I feel like I know everything because I'm me and I have all this experience. But it's like when you see people who are further ahead of you, you have to understand that they know things that you don't know. And the humble person who practices humility, who is smart, right? You have normal people and you have smart people. Smart people understand, okay, this guy knows something I don't. I'm going to listen to what this guy has to say, and then I'm going to creatively figure out a way how I can maybe implement this into what I'm doing and have it work. And I have a guy that I call for when I need help with it. I have 2 guys. And they'll tell me things because they're much further ahead of me. They're doing tens of millions of dollars a year, or they've generated, hundreds of millions of dollars in sales and things like that. And I say, well, how do I do this thing? And then they tell me, and then what I do is I understand, even though, like, okay, I'm in a great position, and I'm successful and everything, I understand that this person knows something that I don't know. And I listen, and then I implement it, and then, wow, magically it works. Because I understood that this guy knows something I don't. Instead of me sitting here for months trying to waste time, I'm just going to do it myself. I'm going to do it myself, but I'm going to take his advice, and I'm going to listen, and I'm going to implement it, and it just works. And so all of this stuff, it's like, you can do everything yourself, theoretically. But there are people who like to pay money to skip the line. There are people who like to skip the line. And also, it's very important to understand, okay, this guy knows something I don't. I'm going to just learn from him and sit and listen, and I'm going to implement it in my business, right? And that's how I operate, and that's how I've operated for years, because I remember what it was like just trying to figure it out all on my own. And now I have this network of people. I have people who are my friends. There's people that I pay for consulting, like tens of thousands of dollars and things like that, to just, okay, how do I do this thing? And then, how do I solve this problem? And then I just implement it, and then it makes money. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, to summarize the part about like the selling the implementation, one of my favorite things to do is ask a question. And it's really funny because I think it's just like being from the East Coast. David does this all the time. Like, gotcha, so like, I see that you have like 69 YouTube subscribers. Like, how's that working for you so far? And you just do it in a monotone way where it's just like completely matter of fact, not even, there's no snarkiness attached to it. Just like, gotcha, so like, I understand, all the information's out there. Like, how has that worked for you so far? And flip it right back on its head. And then they'll start justifying and explaining and kind of getting themselves into this like mental corner. And then they'll realize like, wait, I actually don't know what I'm doing. And sometimes it takes, no one else has said that to them in their life or actually challenged them like that. Someone just challenging them with a simple, matter of fact, non-snarky question, a lot of people will realize they're being stupid.
My favorite is, why haven't you done it yet?
That too, yeah.
If you have all the information, why haven't you done it? Oh, well, I'm still trying to get started, I'm still trying to do this, I'm still trying to do that. Okay. Well, there's other people who are where you were when you were 18 years old and you start, okay, I have this information, I'm just going to do it, and then they do the information, and then 2 years, 3 years later, they're here, right? So it's very interesting to see the duality between people who actually do things and take action versus people who don't, right? Or people who continually sit, like you have the producer versus the consumer mindset, where people who are consumers are just going to sit and do things, and you guys being here, like you guys took action, you guys came out. But people who are just sitting there consuming never get anywhere versus the person who just, okay, take this, go. Take this, go. Take this, go. And it doesn't matter if it doesn't work, because everything creates something called reference experience. And the reference experience that you have is going to allow you to perform at a higher level versus the other people who don't. And the beautiful part about life is you can pay to get other people's reference experience. You can come to things like this and understand, okay, well, this is all the experience of Presley building a 7-figure business within 2 years from 19 to age 21, and this is just the first thing that we're doing here. So you get all this reference experience, and you're like, okay, I'm just going to use this and do this and do this and do this, and I'm just going to skip the line. And so it's a beautiful way to live life, especially now because I'm fairly old, right? And I feel old because I've just been in the game for a very long time, and I'm 27, right? There's a few people that are a little bit older, right? But I feel old because I feel like, I got started in business when I was 24, and I feel like I am so behind compared to guys like him who are now 21, and he'll do, over the next few years, probably $5 to $10 million in sales over the next 5 years, which is crazy because he'll be basically my age when I started out, and he'll be doing 5, 10 million. So you have to understand that time is ticking, you don't have enough time, and the best thing to do is do all this stuff while you still have time, and if you are young, or because there are a few young guys here, like there's guys in their early 20s. Thanks. But you have to understand that there are people who know more than you, and you have to just simply go and skip the line and use all the time available, how many seconds and minutes and hours you have in a day, to your advantage versus sitting and watching YouTube or watching a bunch of things and never implementing it.
Appreciate that. And Devin actually just gave me this great visual, and it's perfectly aligned with what I'm going to just finish off with before we go into Q&A and wrap this up, is that a lot of people compartmentalize sales, content, all this stuff. Like they think content and sales are these two different entities, these two different things. Guys, it's all part of the sales process. Like the content and the sales, like it's not two different things. Like the content is the sales process. Like that, the content is the beginning of the sales process. It's not like a separate thing. Like you have to view it as one entity. So what I mean by that is, let's just say this is the gap that the prospect, or like the gap the prospect knows that they need to fill to get to their dream outcome. Like this is basically what you're selling with your mentorship, agency, whatever the case may be. And think about, you have to basically cover all this ground on the sales call and explain that entire gap over the course of 30 minutes to an hour. That's going to be really difficult. It might even require a follow-up call. But if you want to shorten that, you can start filling this gap before the sales call. And I think that's what people forget, is that the sales process begins with the content. You don't have to start the sales process on the call. You can start way before and jump the gun on the sales call. With every piece of content, you're doing this, to where the entire sales call is literally just this tiny, tiny little bridge, this tiny little piece of the bridge where it's just like, all right, cool, let's figure out the logistics. You have financing. How can we get this started? What do the coaching calls look like? And so you can actively choose to build that bridge with your content to where your sales process becomes so simple, because the only selling that's happening on the sales call is not you selling your qualification. It's just like explaining 1 or 2 final questions before they sign the contract and pay the invoice. So filling this gap, you can choose to go and do that on the sales call, and you can try to pull out everything and have a really fun time convincing them and explaining why you're qualified. Or you can start the sales process hours and hours in advance by just creating a YouTube channel that answers all those questions and is like a bank of your brain and sales assets, and just make life easier for yourself. So that's, if I had to summarize everything we talked about today, keep that in mind. Content and sales are not 2 separate departments. It's all combined. It's all the same thing. I have a Q&A slide here, but guys, that's it for my presentation. We're gonna transition to questions. Yeah.
How do you discern doing the Like creating a customer, or like take pre-existing people that are intent out there?
I see what you mean. Yeah, so like
For the keyword
going after like
quality.
middle of funnel people versus top of funnel. Yeah, so that's like why a combination is really important. So for example, like I'll give you an example of a content that's really good at both. So a really good piece of content that's like more top of funnel optimized would be like a life story video, right? Because the point of a life story video, your transformation of going from like broke to rich or like homeless to living in a penthouse, whatever the case may be, I'm using generic examples, that is going to be interesting to everyone that is interested in like business, mindset, self-improvement. But then within that video, so it's packaged in a very broad way, but within the video, you're usually focusing on like the one business model that got you there. So the packaging is top of funnel, but like the video itself becomes more middle funnel because you're talking about how like this specific business model was like that bridged the gap for you. And then the people that are interested in that specific business model, they're gonna keep following you. You know, so like the actual topic of the video has a very wide net, but within the video itself, the emphasis is on the specific business model that got you there. So you're almost like baiting people in with a very wide packaging and the wide net. And then the people that want to achieve your transformation, they'll be like, well, he did YouTube automation to get here. Let me learn more about YouTube automation. And like that's your way of introducing the opportunity where you can capture a wide net and then like get a bucket of the people that watch that interested in the thing you're doing. So that's like an example of like going top of funnel and then supplementing with a more middle of funnel content. And on your page, you would have more niche or middle of funnel videos breaking down like specific things about YouTube automation, like how to choose a niche, how to hire, etc. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How important are the thumbnail designs and then the overall YouTube script itself? And like how do you start researching that information for specific clients?
If I want to be lazy here, I would just tell you to go watch the YouTube course on my channel that has like 2 hours of content.
I saw.
But joking, I said it in a joking way. I was just trying to illustrate the point of like, hey, if you're lazy, just make YouTube content and people can go watch it. But to answer your question, script in my opinion is very, very important because if you don't include certain elements like social proof, if you don't create that urgency, you're not going to have that same conversion rate. If you're not using effective call to actions, people aren't really going to, like you really have to spell it out for people sometimes. The most important thing I can tell you about script writing, if I had to sum it up in like one sentence, is show, not tell. And a lot of people, they'll like tell, this is the best business model. This is easy. But then instead of using powerful language like, I was able to do this at 19 years old with no sales experience, and I sounded like I was a high schooler on the phone when I was making these calls, right? You see the difference between like saying like this business model is easy versus like, I was able to do this at 19 years old with no sales experience, and I also sounded like a squeaky prepubescent teenager when I was on the phone, right? So it's like using descriptive language and showing with your words rather than telling somebody it's easy is way more powerful because the viewer then feels like they arrived at that conclusion on their own rather than you instructing them to believe something.
So more copywriting principles.
Exactly.
Into the script writing.
100%.
And I guess my question was more of if you're hired to do this for certain other coaches in a niche you don't even know, do you only insert some stuff that, like you said, the call to action, the copywriting, and then let them do the main source of their information and knowledge?
Dude, I learned about the whole niche.
So you learn about the whole.
I got to be the chameleon. Like I'll literally go in and learn about vending machines, business acquisition. I'll learn about these things because I know the better understanding I have of their market and what people are struggling with, the better copy I can write and the better I can do with the actual ideation process. You know, I could get like a very level 1 knowledge, or I could really go all the way and learn everything. What I will say is there's almost like diminishing returns. Like if I try to learn too much and get too technical, that almost becomes harmful to the script because you almost want to, it's actually really good that I'm the one writing the scripts because I'm almost like the mediator. I'm like the scribe that's like explaining the technical stuff in layman's terms or 5th grade terms. I have like just enough of an understanding of it where I understand the people in the niche, but I can also explain it and communicate in a way to new people that are not familiar with it, right? So it's like you want to develop a level of understanding that like you get it. You're like, you could have a conversation with someone in the niche and not sound uneducated, but you could also have a conversation with a newbie and explain it to them as if it was like a 5th grade presentation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So you actually go deep into studying your client's niche.
Yeah, for example, we just started with like a vending machine client, for example, and then I had to research and find out the stuff that people need help with when starting a vending machine business. And one of the ones is like, okay, how do I find profitable locations? And because I did my research, now I know that's a common question or FAQ in the niche, and then I can go and make a video on that. And then I'll go even a step deeper and find out, well, what are the other methods of finding profitable vending machines that everyone else is using, that everyone else is teaching? And are those actually valid, or does this client have a unique way of doing it that no one else is doing it. I'll give you an example with one of my clients in the wholesale real estate niche. One of the things I realized in studying wholesale real estate niche was like one of the big struggles was finding cash buyers. And everyone else was finding cash buyers in a way that was like kind of outdated. It cost money. It wasn't good. So we found, okay, how can we teach people to do this for free with $0? And what's like an easier way of doing it than everyone else is teaching? So then we made the title of the video like the new way of finding cash buyers for wholesale real estate. And the method itself actually was new. And then in the thumbnail and title, we almost hinted at it a little bit. So like in the title, we had like with $0, and then we had also in the thumbnail like with $0, and then we also had like a little Zillow logo, implying that it was using Zillow, but not giving away the entire method. So it's almost like hinting or teasing at something that's there. And that video crushed because not only was the packaging good, but also the method that we taught was like different. And because I identified a need in the market for that specific video, that's why we were able to go and be successful.
Gotcha.
So like the more you can understand how people think in the client's market or your market or whoever you're writing for, the better you can position the content, because the efficacy of your scripts, the video itself, depends on the research and positioning you do going into it, right? Because like you can be a great script writer, but if you don't know how to like position the content in a way that's like different or interesting, it's going to be really hard to make an impact.
Last year when you first started the offer, I have a question. So regarding the macro trends, change here, but so it's a matter of identifying it early, right?
Yeah.
Because we want to be in top of the curve or behind the curve, whatever. So how do you know it's a trend? You know, that's difficult.
It's a really good question. You also touched on something really interesting. I love the word marketing because like within the word marketing, it's market. So I think about marketing the same way I think about like market cycles in the stock market or crypto. It's the exact same principle. Like this is like, it's almost like a sentiment check on a market. So like think about the stock market when you have analysts pumping something up on CNBC, and like you know the joke about, if you guys are into like stocks, you know the joke about that guy Jim Cramer, about whenever he calls a stock, like you always inverse Cramer, like the inverse Cramer ETF. I think the exact same way about content. So when something becomes too trendy, too popular, everyone's telling you to do a certain style of content, when you're seeing it pop up on your For You page too much, and everyone's using the format, and like the biggest YouTubers in your niche are already hopping on it, you're probably too late already. So it's like being there right after the first or second person has done it, so where you can just take advantage of something that's already working, but you're still early to the trend. Being like just after the first person did it is the ideal situation because you don't have to really innovate, but you identify the trend early enough to where you can still capitalize on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's how we push down the. Yeah, we researched the sounds for tech and applied them to the offers we do before. But it's difficult. I didn't thought it was the same thing.
And you can never be perfect. You just don't want to be at the end of it, you know, when everyone's doing it, right? It's like everyone thought, it's just funny when like everyone's like trying to do like the POV thing or like POV in their thumbnails, think it's going to be making an impact on the content, not realizing like why it worked or the actual psychology behind any of that, or the same thing with raw reality. It's like those are examples of like micro trends with the title and thumbnail, but the principle still applies. You want to be like front running the trend. You don't want to be on the back end of the trend when everyone else has already done it, because the efficacy of the trend is then dead when everyone has already used and seen it before. You know, it's not like original or novel positioning anymore.
It's a similar thing with I said on Twitter, I said that if you're like trying to sell a high ticket sales program now, or like an info product around high ticket sales, you are 3 to 4 years late to the game.
Yeah.
Like you are at a disadvantage of 3 years. It is impossible to not impossible, because nothing is necessarily impossible, but it is really, really, really difficult. Like the barrier of entry, like it's been cooked. Like there was a few years ago, somebody said that they went to like the Russell Brunson ClickFunnels thing, and everyone who was getting a ClickFunnels plaque was selling high ticket sales thing. Every single person, high ticket sales, high ticket sales, high ticket sales. It was every single person getting $1 million plaque, and like this one, I think it was 2021 or 2022, was selling a high ticket sales info product, right? So that market is absolutely cooked. So you have to look at the offer fatigue in the marketplace too. Like even like SMMA or like agency stuff, absolutely cooked. But there are ways to do it because it is still profitable. E-commerce specifically, a guy I know, Brooke Hiddink, is crushing it with a high ticket e-commerce program. And he is just a savage, but it's because of the marketing spin. And it's all about the mechanism. Going back to like even what he said in the beginning of the presentation, it is all about the mechanism and it's all about how you present it. But like high ticket sales in particular is a market that's absolutely cooked. I do not recommend any of you guys go into that. And I don't think anyone here will, but like it's cooked. The appointment setting, high ticket sales thing, that's not it.
David makes a couple great points there. what's really funny about high ticket sales is like when a market gets so sophisticated where like there's no room to out sophisticate it anymore, it's almost like horseshoe theory where it goes back to the basics. So like the people that are doing best in high ticket sales right now, like Jeremy Miner's doing great on YouTube. He's crushing with across the board. And what's funny is he actually just, there's no differentiation whatsoever. It literally just goes back to the fundamentals of sales of like how to get people interested in your offer, how to overcome the price objection. And he literally goes back, it's like the horseshoe theory. Like when a market gets so sophisticated that there's no room to out sophisticate anymore, it goes back to the essential principles and it almost like resets the scoreboard. It's a really interesting phenomenon that I definitely recommend you guys just like be more aware of. And the second thing David said is in those like new emerging markets, I guess I would say, something like growth operating, for example, which you guys have all heard about before. What's funny about growth operating, it's not a new thing. It's literally just SMMA with rev share. But the way the content is positioned, the way the offer is positioned, it's made out to be like it's something new. In the same way with Brooke Hitting, for example, his whole thing is like high ticket e-commerce. It's just drop shipping with expensive products. In the same way, like branded dropshipping is becoming a popular thing on YouTube. I actually helped one of my friends kind of like establish, like he's up like 7K subscribers from 3 in the last like 2.5 weeks, just because he's exploiting this micro trend of branded dropshipping that's working really well right now. And he's just ripping content every 2 to 3 days. I mean, he told me they cash collected $25,000 in a single day by exploiting this branded dropshipping like micro trend. And because we identified that and I helped him identify that, he's able to crush. And even though that momentum might not be sustained, now he has a really good base to work off of. So it's not necessarily that your thing has to be new. You just have to find a creative way to position it as new and show proof that it does work.